All right. So, in this episode of Math on the Rocks, instead of your normal full team of me, Cole, and Scott, in this episode, we're just going to play the most recent webinar that we experienced with the fantastic one and only Fawn Nguyen. She kind of focuses on just amazing engagement strategies for teaching the fullness of math, not just your number crunching, but just the fullness of math and how to help students not only learn how to do arithmetic, but how to be mathematicians. And so enjoy this wonderful webinar. Hey, everybody. My name is Duane Habecker. I am the president of California Math Council Central Section. On the panelist list here, we have the esteemed, highly esteemed, and very humble Fawn Nguyen. So we're gonna talk about her later. We also have Kyle Atkin, and then we also have Cole Sampson. He's the he's the president-elect of California Math Council Central Section. Kyle, I'm going to hand it off to you just so that you could talk about the logistics and explain to Megan why we made the executive decisions we made. Go ahead, Kyle.
Thanks, Duane. I'm just here for the technical side of things, I suppose. I wanted to point out everybody the Q&A button there. If you kind of highlight the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a Q&A button. If you click on that, it should bring up a Q&A dialog box where you can ask questions. You won't be able to see the questions until we answer them. And so I will be answering questions that you have as best we can. And there's a tab that says answered, and you'll be able to see those questions that have been answered. Maybe if the question has been answered live, we'll click on it and just say it was answered live, but you can click on that Q&A icon and the dialog box will open and be able to answer any questions or pose any questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to answer those as we can. Duane?
Yeah, and as we're learning, maybe later we'll be able to open up the chat section, but we're learning, so that's just how we're going to do it. Thank you, Kyle, for explaining the logistics. I want to also thank our partners. It takes a village to raise a webinar, and here on this slide is our village. Darn near all of the county offices in the Central Valley region have partnered together to support this and advertise this because we know that learning how to be a better math teacher and how to just grow is more than just these 1 or 2 day events at a symposium or conference. And so these partners are saying yes and amen to this idea of every third Thursday of the month. We're going to get together and continue lighting our fire and continue learning. And this time around, our very first webinar is going to be Fawn Nguyen. And at this point, Fawn, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let you share your screen because I don't need to do any more introduction. You take over.
I will do that. Thank you so much. So I'm learning, let me get this straight. So I can't see the participants. I don't see them and they can't chat. So I'm just talking to myself for the next hour. I get it. Wow.
You could see a list of their names at the very least, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to share my screen. You see my screen? Yay.
Yes.
Thank you. So this talk is about from bell to bell, right? To maximize our class time with the kids. Yeah, I'm hoping the idea is, and someone shared this a long time ago about we can actually quantitatively measure the kids' excitement. And that's by timing how fast they get to our classroom and how fast they leave our classroom, right? If we have to kick them out, like, come on, guys, leave. I've got another class coming in. Maybe that's a good sign, right? That they're stuck in the math that they want to continue doing. All right, so in the same spirit, then, I'd like to start immediately with let's play a game. Are you ready? You would need some paper and pencil. Need some paper and pencil. We're gonna dive right in, play a game. And although we're not in Vegas, it's a little bit of gambling or probability, I mean. Here we go. So this is instruction. It's a two-player game. You and your enemy, or your worst enemy. You ask your opponent to choose a sequence of 3 coin tosses. For example, right? Heads, heads, or tails, right? Any 3. A sequence of 3 coin tosses, right? After they give you their 3, you then you choose your 3. After seeing their 3, then you choose your 3. And then the coin gets flipped, right? Gets flipped repeatedly. Whomever sequence comes up first is the winner. Is that okay? All right. So you have your sequence of 3. What is your sequence of 3? Of course, I can't see yours, but maybe, but let me ask you this. How many different sequences of 3 coin tosses are possible? How many are there? Okay, Duane, you have, what's that, 8? Okay. You want to explain how you got 8, Duane? What is the math?
Yeah, well, I did a little fancy math, and I knew that for each coin I would have 2 choices, and so 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So that's kind of how I got 8. I could have just made a comprehensive list, but I did fancy math.
I was going to ask what the hell is fancy math, but you just explained it very nicely. Thank you. So, yeah, so those are the 8 possible, right? I think I've got, so like 2 times 2 times 2. Okay. So, well, it's a slideshow. So here I pick one. So let's say my enemy or my enemy, my opponent, but HTT. What should you write down? If this is your opponent's, what should you write down so that your sequence has a better chance of showing up before their sequence? And the answer is HHT. Okay, so here's the okay, so you, how the arrows work. You are the end of the arrow. Your opponent's sequence is, who's the likely loser, is at the arrow point. Okay. So what if your opponent says HHT instead? What would you say? See if you can find the pattern of what's going on. So if your opponent now happens to, their sequence is HHT, what should yours be? Take a guess, take a stab, unless you know the game already. Then you're cheating. Are you playing along, Kyle? You look very intense.
Kyle, do you have a thought? Kyle's working hard.
I know, which I love. You should be working hard.
Fawn, I'll tell you, at this point, I've never played this game. I just did the opposite.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's it's a guess. We'll take a look. Okay. Yeah, so it's THH is what you want to call out. Okay, so get more data for you to see if you can catch anything. All right, so okay, yeah, THH will have a better chance of showing up before HHT. All right, what if your opponent says THH? What now? What now? I want to hear from Kyle or Cole, please, because obviously you muted everybody else. Thanks.
Oh no, we just opened the chat up, Fawn, so the community can share with us what they're thinking. Sorry, I was technically challenged, but we're good.
Yeah.
Chat is now open.
So they could put their guesses in the chat.
Sure.
All right.
A guess costs nothing. TTH. Thank you, Mackenzie. Appreciate it. THT. Arithmetic, yeah.
Boy.
Okay, got a similar, yeah, Molly, still different. Thank you, thank you. All right, so then it's TTH. That was Yanni's. And yeah, that's Mackenzie. TT, very cool. Chat's only going to hosted panelist. Ryan says that. I have no idea, Ryan. Okay, so of course it loops around. So if your opponent happens to say TTH, you want to say HTT. So we're not going to share. If you happen to know the solution, please don't share, just so that people can continue to play. Not while I'm talking. So what if your opponent says those? Right, so there are more possibilities. Remember, there are 8 possible things that they can say to start, and then what your response would be. All right, that's right. Okay, well, so the calculated probabilities are here. Look at it, right? You have a much better chance if you know what, right? If you know what to say after. I mean, that's a 7 to 1 or 87%. Yeah, so if you know what you're doing, you have a much better chance of winning. So this game is named after its creator, Walter Penny. Interesting that his last name is Penny. It's with an extra E at the end. There are 2 E's there because you can flip a penny to do this. Okay, it's an older game, but not very well known. But now you know it. Now you know. So it's Walter Penny, Penny's game. You want to look that up, but I don't want you to look it up until you have a chance to play around with it. What I love is it's you can there are several solutions to this. I mean, ways to explain it, but actually it's also explained. The one that I could wrap my head around was by Conway, John Conway's mathematician, John Conway, how he explained it, how you can come up with those percentages. So super cool. So that I just thought, you know, something to share. Right. Okay. Can't see, but how many of you engage in visual patterns? Yay, yay. Yeah, I normally get different levels of acquaintance with the visual patterns in a room, so, all right. So I'm curious, hey, lots of you. So wherever you are, could you please give me the next step? Or, you know, a particular step, like step 25 or step 45, whatever, or the general step. If we continue this, I'm sharing this because this is my warm-up. Every other day they have a visual pattern, and the other days are number talks. Those are the only 2 warm-ups that I do. There are lots of other great ones. I just happen to, you know, kind of nail down on these 2 because I wanted to see growth, and I really could see growth with visual patterns and number talks. The fluency, the flexibility, but there are just other great ones. I think, however, I would suggest to just, you know, work on do something that you do repeatedly, right? We want time. Just they can only improve on something that can work on consistently, that it ramps up on the level of it. Yeah, I used to do all kinds of warm-ups, but it's like, okay, which is just too scattered. And this is just more challenging to do when step 4 has 26. Okay. Yes, and I can't see your sketches, but I'm actually more curious about your sketch, what you're sketching. And what with my students, especially, what happens is when they share, after they sketch their step 4, I will have them describe. So we don't want to see their sketch, but I want them to use their language. So they have to describe to us, you know, like step 20. So I say to them, I'd like you to please describe to us how to draw step 20. That way they get to use their vocabulary. They need to attend to, the instructions so that we may listen to what they're saying and sketch it. So it's just another route, something I toss in so that they're using language. Okay, so this is one of my students to work on the same pattern. Okay, you notice the colors. That's huge. So that way we can talk about the different, so the student sees it as 3 parts. Right? It's big. The colors are everything. Right? So there's N. This is 6th grade, and they're already writing the equations by the second time they're writing the equations. Of course, I have to cough when I'm presenting. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. This is how this student sees it, as a growing orange rectangle. The constant 2. I want to point out, whenever they see the rectangle, they are just another scaffolding piece that they write in the 2 sets of parentheses, right? This actually gives them, these are 6th graders or even younger, are writing quadratic equations if they just know the area of rectangle. The area of rectangle is length times width. So the 2 sets of parentheses that you see there is very intentional. They do that immediately when they see a rectangle. So now they can just focus on the height and the base and put those in. And this student, of course, is just trying to find a different way to seeing the negative space. Yeah, and I love this person is connecting the step number to, and you see the diagonal line to the number of empty space, right? So step 1 has 4, step 2 has 6. Yeah, so the student is testing that out just to make sure. And there's the equation to match that. And again, you see the set of parentheses, very mindful. And we never simplify these until, because actually the kids don't even know how to FOIL, right? Or distribute. I said the dirty 4-letter word, sorry, I said FOIL. But because they don't know how to distribute yet, but they know that's what makes up the length, that was what makes up the width. So I just love they're very careful with the parentheses because they know that's what you have to do first, right? So I'm just planting that idea, how important that is. And all 3 live on this one paper. Yeah, and again, I always have to show up when I show this. You notice the date is August. It's August 27th. It's like literally the second week of school. We start mid-August, and this is a 6th grader doing quadratic equations without ever hearing the word quadratic, because it's not part of their standard, but they're just seeing growing rectangles. So we love visual patterns. It's a warm-up every other day. I just want to share this one with you. This is Isabella's. One of my 8th graders. So in addition to doing visual patterns, sometimes they create it also. So she happened to create these. And this student in particular just, just wrote a lot of different ways to see it. Right. So this is why, unfortunately, 9 out of 10 teachers, honestly, if they're new to visual patterns, they'll always create the table, the XY value, the input and output. And I ask that you please hold off on that. Because if you teach, it's hard to unteach some things. If you teach if you teach the tables, right, then you're just boiling these visuals down to counting, just counting the number of objects, and now the visual seems moot. I could have just given you the table. Right? So yeah, if you can hold off on the table so that you can see all the different ways to see the pattern, the visual itself. What's interesting about see, this is what happens if you just count up Isabella's or rearrange. She just happened to draw them this way. But yeah, see how the bottom is just not as, I mean, if she drew it, it has the same count as the bottom. This student would not have seen it this many different ways. So I just thought, I just want to use this example to show you how important the visual is. Just because the visual looks slightly different than just a regular rectangular array, it allowed for lots of ways to see it. So again, just trying to emphasize the beauty is in the visual, all the different ways. Right, I happen to, I made 21 of these, but there was more for elementary because I started supporting elementary. So there's more scaffolding there. However, if you're brand new, if you know, even high school, if you're brand new or middle school and you're brand new to visual patterns, I would highly recommend this might be a place to start. Because yeah, there's just some, I selected certain patterns and there's just a way to build up with these. And then the resources page, I'll show you again. So there, the site has, we now have almost 500 patterns. And you know, the credit goes to everybody else, teachers and students around the country and around the globe sharing these. I may have done about 70 of these, right? So yeah, over 3/4 of them are just from other teachers. So it's great, and kids. All right, number talks. So we, as I mentioned, we do visual patterns every other day and number talks the other day. When they walk in, they can expect to see the visual pattern already on the board, or they see the number talk on the board. And when by number talk, for me, it's mental math. It's all mental math. Yeah, I didn't used to not say that because, and then I realized other people, their number talks are different. So no, for me, it's mental math. And when I was a coach, prior to my job at Amplify, I was given just 15 minutes to speak with our new teachers at orientation. And so I asked them if they could do 3 things. I know they were overwhelmed and excited to start, but the new teachers, you know, just all ready to go. And I said, if you could do 3 things with your kids: 1, number talks; 2, number talks; 3, number talks. Yeah, that's how important I think number talks are. It builds fluency like no other, really builds fluency, which builds their confidence, right? So let's do a number talk together. And again, it's mental math, so I need you to not cheat. And I tell the kids, you know, pens and pencils down. And I always remind them to not to air write it, because they might be just, you know, writing, you know, using their finger as a pen and just, so yeah, they can try to do as much as they can on paper. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. So all mental math, please. So just do this for a minute. Also the timer for a minute. All right, so the routine in my class, thank you so much, it goes like this. When the timer goes up, I have the kids share with their neighbor for 1 minute. Give them a whole minute just to share with their neighbor. Then after that minute, I call on 3 random students. I call on 3 random students, and at first, at the beginning, I will have students who say, I don't have anything. And the first thing you want to say to that is, that's absolutely okay. Actually, I said that before the timer goes off, before we do this routine, I said, honey, when the timer goes off, if you don't have anything, just say that, and it's perfectly okay, right? We want them to engage in this over time, and I say, so when the student says, I don't have anything, I first say, that's okay. And then I ask, do you have an estimate? Okay, so I ask that, and then I ask, what if you had paper and pencil? What would you do? How would you do this problem, paper and pencil? How would you set it up? Okay. Or I'm just helping the kid. What I don't do is move on to the next kid. When the kid says, I don't have anything, I just don't move on, because I'm afraid that, if I do that, then the next student might say, I don't have anything. For example, the 3 and 7500s, what would you round that to? Hopefully they say something like 4. And the 32, maybe they'll say 30, but something, right? So they learn to round and then go from there. Or or the paper and pencil, how would how would you set this up, right? So just get something from the student, and I thank them, and I move on to the next student. So I do that with 3 random students. And then after that, I share. If those 3 students have not shared the way that I did it, then I share. And then after I share, then I open it up to the whole class. I would say open up to the class and say who has done it differently than what we've seen so far. And so, all right. May I have somebody share either in chat or just, or one of you on camera? Okay, so you did 3 times. Thank you. Give me time to. Yeah. I see a doubling and halving. Same thing. Thank you. Number talks are so powerful, because if I didn't have a way to do this, if I just, this was too much for me, right? I'm gaining from my classmates. And I forgot to mention that we all scribe, by the way. When a student shares, when I call on these students to share, I'm using the document camera and I'm writing. I write the student's name, their initials, and I'm just writing down verbatim as much as I can. If anything, I just ask them to please slow down so that I can record what they're saying. And I just try to ask all the questions to make sure I recorded the way that the student did it in their head. Thank you so much for sharing. And the idea is, for example, I just did this yesterday, actually, on a Zoom call with 6 other teachers, and we're 6 different ways, and a different problem, but we 6 of us had totally 6 different ways to do a multiplication problem. And that is just, so it's not just the math. What I love about this routine is they're giving each other's credit. They say, my gosh, I started Kyle's way, or Kyle's way was really cool. I didn't think of it, right? So they're naming these things. And 2 days later, when I intentionally give something very similar, I love it when they bring up a student's name. I learned Duane's way. How powerful is that to give each other voice, right? In this one routine. Thank you. And you're doing that right now in the chat. Thank you, Mackenzie. Yep. Love it. So, and right, numbers are flexible. And decomposing, composing, all these things that we want the kids to be able to do, let's have it happen. And the whole idea of mental math is it gives that constraint. You don't have paper and pencil. So, and I know I do. I love mental math because I have a hard time. And because I have a hard time, the kids know that. So I'm working along with them. I'm learning along with them. Because I tell them, because a few kids would say, well, I just mentally set this up like the algorithm, right? One number stacked over. And I tell you, many of them, they can't finish it because it's too much. Yeah. And I tell them it's too much for me, so that's why I don't even try it. I know that I cannot stack two numbers on top of another and do this, the whole thing in my head. If I did, I could. I just don't even try because I have a hard time with it. That's just a lot of numbers to stack. Yay. So thank you for giving each other feedback on the chat too. Okay, so these are my kids, my kids' responses. Let's see if they match. Any one of them match the way you think. I saw this. I love the 7500s and 3/4. Those were friendly enough. And this is what I mean. I stick to this because of growth, right? I want them to continue building these skills. And so it's hard for me to go do this once a week, for example, which I used to do just once a week. But now it's like, oh no, this is too rich. I want to revisit this. That's why it's every other day. This student did some rounding. I think we see this also. Who's this one? And I try to ask the student for clarification. For example, I do not multiply by 4. I don't multiply by 4. I double. I multiply by 2. So I want to get at to make sure that is the student doing the same thing. Student 2. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. Student 4. There's our doubling. I kept doubling until it's easy. My kids are just awesome. I don't know about your kids, but mine are great. I'm super proud. It's only because we keep doing the same stuff to give them time to build. So nobody did my way, so that's why I got to share this day. I happen to have 3 8s in my head as a decimal. And my way is pretty cool, huh? Right, so it's like one of the rare fractions that I know the equivalent decimal to. All right. So I have 90 of these. Thank you, Duane, appreciate that. So I have 9 of these carefully crafted. 90, why 90? Because 180 days of school. Remember, I do these every other day. So I came up with 90 carefully crafted just for you to share. And they live on the same resources page where you will find the visual patterns that I mentioned earlier and other things on there. Just I share whatever I can. And Duane, just want to, I give you a shout out all the time, Duane, but in my session at Q, I'm at Q right now. I'm in Palm Springs. I didn't mention, yeah, I'm in Palm Springs right now. And I did a session on my visual math and I had a slide of, because most of the problems came from Duane's tape diagram Tuesday. Thank you. All right. People have asked, because I share all these different things as what does your day look like? So this is my curriculum. It literally lives on a spreadsheet and I have 5 columns. I have 5 columns and a different tab for each class, right? So these are the 5 things that I do. I have a warm-up. PS is for problem solving. The curriculum is whatever, okay? So been saying that. So warm up every other day, 90 days of number talks, 90 days of visual patterns. Problem solving is my specifically non-routine task, which I'll share a few. It's kind of my favorite thing in the world. These non-routine, these fun problems. They're all fun. So whatever our district adopts, that's a curriculum. And I do take the tests from the curriculum because I want that alignment. I don't think it's fair if I use one curriculum and then test them differently. I do, just of course, tinker with the test to make sure it's, just more appropriate, whatever, or create more questions. Now the task part is Mars task. I love, 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 love me Mars task. And it's one of my go-to sources. I mean, there are other sources too, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and just put Mars because it's where I go most of the time. All right, the first two categories are non-curricular, completely intentional, but I bring those into the crit. Otherwise, I don't have a chance to, so I bring those in. And how about the frequency? And the test, we just have to give the test. Thank you, Kyle. So yeah, for the non-routine, I'm just asking for one task a month or one every 2 months. That's just about 5 to 10 problems a year. I happen, because I don't sleep, I took 15 of my favorite Mars lessons in middle school and decimal size them. I put them into decimals. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but I do this. I don't sleep. Yeah, so I happen to have those two, and it's on the same resource page. I want to say something about when you have a test, though. When you have a test, if you could, I don't know what you do with the test on test day, because right, you always have a student who finishes earlier than other students. So what do you do? What do you tell the students who finish early? Do you have some work for them to do? Right? You know, they're doing something. You want them, you know, they can't be jumping up and down. They have to be doing something probably quietly so that others can finish. The Mars task, Yanni, is just bi-weekly. So bi-weekly means once every 2 weeks, right? Yeah, not twice a week. I always hit those mixed up.
Fawn, real quick, while we're still back on that slide, we did have a question too of like, how do you sequence that throughout the week? What would a typical week look like?
So yeah, so again, the spreadsheet helps me see the week. Almost daily, I'm doing the curriculum, right? Whatever's in my textbook or whatever my curriculum is, so it's almost daily. And then the other ones get inserted in, but they get inserted intentionally. Depends on, yeah, I'm hoping that makes sense. I mean, there's no particular day that it falls on, if that's what yeah. But I just know that, for example, whatever we're starting, that once a month, if you know, that we had a PS that we had a problem solving. So looking at my spreadsheet, every 2 weeks, I make sure I have something that, you know, the other stuff. And it's based on, it's still based on my curriculum. I mean, I want the coherence there. And especially, you know, not all curriculum are created equal, but yeah, the good ones will, you know, you have that coherence, that rigor built in. Yeah, and the task, notice the task is curricular, so it has to line up to whatever the curriculum is that I'm doing. Bi-weekly is both of those. Great. That's just a wonderful way to confuse an English learner like I am. I never get that state. All right, so I just want to encourage you. I don't know what it is you're doing now, but I would love, if you're wondering what to do on, because you know kids finish tests on different times, is that you start a small PS together. PS is problem solving. You start a small one together. Okay, and what I mean is when you do that, everybody had access to the problem, because a lot of times, and I used to do this also, is right, we give them something to do after if they finish the test early. Well, what if for those who don't finish the test early, that they never got a chance to work on that thing that you gave to, you know, these other students? And every task that I give, I'm assuming it's a great task, right? So I want everybody to have to access. So that's why on test day, we all start out with this rich task. We get started on it, like 5-10 minutes in it, maybe 10 minutes. And then you give up the test. And you said, when you're done with the test, then I need you to continue, then go back and work on this problem solving. And I'll share with you what I mean, like a smaller PS. Okay, so same thing with the worksheets, right? You start at the last problem together. I mean, I've done other talks on this, but you start on the problem together. Here's an example of what I mean. Okay, so you might have these questions are labeled specifically challenging or are you ready for more? It normally lives at the bottom of the page. Right, I've seen these, yeah, like this particular one, it says challenge, and it's the very last one. And unfortunately, kids just don't get to it. I've typed up what that challenge problem is. The Mars tasks are completely free, Abby. I don't know what Thomas saying Mars. Yeah, Kyle put a link in there. They're completely free. Yeah. So I mentioned, right, the kids might not have time to get to that last one because they have 7 other ones to do. Or we as teachers, we might make it optional. Or the kid just might not want to do it just because they think, if it's labeled challenge. And if the kid had trouble with 1 through 7, they're not going to want to even try what that challenge one is. So that's why I'd say that's the first one to do together as a class. You don't want to waste a good problem. You want to make sure that everybody's challenged. And then, and because you begin it together, they had some collaboration at the start. Okay. Right. So this is how I would invert it. Take the last problem and do that as whole class. And by whole class, we still have some quiet time for them to do. Right. Small group work, whole class, that can all wrap in 10, 15 minutes. And I think it's so worth it though. It's so worth it because you gave equal access to everyone, and then you allow some partner work. And then you can say, okay, now that we got into that last problem, now you just go back to the very first one, you assign those, and then you can say, when you're done with these, then I need you to go back. If you're done early, then you go back and do that one. So that's just that little move right there, allows equal access to probably the best problem out there. Yeah, and here's an example of what I mean by a smaller PS. Right. Just grab a puzzle that's a good puzzle that you yourself enjoy working on. I love this. So this is what I mean by smallish. Not too hairy. So one, you had a chance to either copy this unless you know it already. I can give you the slides, by the way, copy of the slides. Be happy to. Here's another example of a small PS. Right. So, and that's all. I think, I mean, we've just talked about the 5 practices. Practice 0 is about giving that rich task. So why would we only allow certain students to get to that rich task? If we say, when you're done with X, Y, and Z, then you get this task. So that's why I'm really fighting against that. I think if it's a good task, everybody's getting it. At least get it started. Right, exactly, Duane. They're the most interesting ones. So here's another one. And I never share a problem unless I myself had struggled with it. I mean, really struggle with it. Because if it was easy for me, my kids would never see it. I just don't. That's how I kind of test. It's because I myself had struggled on it, and I love problems, but it just doesn't give me. I don't know. It just doesn't mean anything to me if I just went ahead and solved it. It's only because it gave me pause, and I'm thinking, okay, my kids know just enough. They know enough, but whether they would get there, it's all very interesting to me, and I want there's no direct path to get there from what they know, I don't think. So I'm very curious about how they would approach it. And especially if, it took me 5 days to get it or something, just it sits, we call them the back burner problems. It's sitting in the back burner. I don't have time. I've got all these problems floating around, my house, everywhere. They're just posted up, and I continue to work on them. And hopefully as I share that with my students, they know that how much I enjoy working on them. Okay. Okay, so one of the most common questions I get from teachers is, I have one or two kids who breeze through everything. What do I do? Can you give me something to challenge them? Right? This question can also come from a parent. Something about the student feeling bored in class because they get everything that you're teaching much faster than the rest of the class. That is the most common question. What do I do with these students who breeze through everything? Ironically, this is one comment that I honestly have never received in my 30 years of teaching middle school. And I think it's because, right, and I think I know it's because of these problem solvings, because they are, it's low entry, everybody has access, but it can go way up at that high exit. That's why no student ever in my 30 years ever says my kid is not challenging your class, just because of these rich tasks that they're back burners. They started on it and we revisit whenever they have a chance. It's in their pocket for continuing. Hopefully, when they're 80 years old, they come back. Hey, Miss Nguyen gave me this problem. I've been working for the last 40 years. Yeah. So what is one of the major challenges facing teachers at all levels of education, right? We get this: the ability to address the diverse needs of individual students in a mathematics classroom. That's our challenge. We have, all of us have this, okay? Many of us, especially in public schools, we have kids that have these gaps. We talk about these gaps all the time, the 2 grade levels behind, 3 grade levels behind. And I'm learning not to say that they have gaps because, I don't remember the person's name, but the person said, can we really say that children have gaps when mathematics is just so big? It's such this like universe. We all have gaps. We all have gaps. So when we talk about these gaps, it's like we're measuring something. Yeah, the grade level standards, right? But then we make it so linear. You have to know skills A, B before you know C. I want to make a shift away from that. Do we really think that we need A, B before we can do C? Because it's all about thinking and problem solving. And we do that differently. We do that differently. So to put it on this linear scale kind of goes against, this big, beautiful web of how we solve things. So, students are trapped, right? So because of what, we have these different levels that we perceive levels. So we trap the kids, and then this means now tracking, they have students in the same grade level are getting different content, right? So just a few years ago, NCSM came out with this statement. So NCSM calls instead for detrapped heterogeneous mathematics instruction through early high school, after which students may be well served by separate curricular pathways. And if students are not trapped, within class groupings still happen, where different groups get different tasks that vary in cognitive demands. I think of the term dumbing down the lesson. Both of these remedies can exacerbate existing achievement gaps. Right. So, yeah. So the second one kind of, lives under the radar, but teachers have just shared with me, oh, when I visit the classroom as a coach, or we're just discussing, they say, oh, this group, I pull this group and they get something different. I'm thinking how rich, we would have such rich discussions if everybody was just on in the same task, so we can have that shared thinking. So here's my attempt at memeing. I want to be very clear about something, however. This is not the teacher's fault. You are my heroes. I'll always be a teacher. I don't care where I work, what I end up, I'll die as a teacher. So we are doing our very best. We need support, ongoing support, right? Professional development that is worthy of our time and honor where we're at. Full stop. So what we need to implement is whole class instruction that is adaptive to students' needs. I know that was easy for me to say, but it takes work and it takes time and it takes commitment from all parties involved. And you know, this, you are taking out your time right now to be with me, right, to go through this. I mean, that's amazing to me. The hard work that you do this is, you know, it's almost 5 o'clock my time. But so we're working our butt off already, but we just need to continue to get this support. And yep, we both said butt at the same time, Duane. That's kind of weird, but yeah. So what we can do? We can do content adaptations. Okay, that could mean technology, right? Where the magic happens is, yeah, there are certain things that paper and pencil, I love paper and pencil, but there are things that technology can help us. And I happen to work for Amplified Decimals Math, and we got that technology pretty great. And content adaptation also means that the teachers know the content deeply, forward and backward. And a solid curriculum can provide this background knowledge. Right? But I learned so much on my own that I couldn't get from my K-12 mathematics. So, and, you know, I mean, and nobody can ask you to spend more time than you already have, but knowing our content deeply is just very, very important also. Of course, strategies. We can refer to NCTM's outline of the 8 teaching math practices. Okay, no doubt this is a long-term process that might take us 5 to 10 years or more to achieve some sort of level of mastery, right? And teachers, we can learn to better facilitate discourse. We want the kids talking. And I love the 5 practices from Peg Smith. In Peter Little's book, Building Thinking Classrooms with a Vertical Non-Permanent Surfaces have been transformative, I mean, for many classes. So just things that we can do. Learner outcomes and learning time are entities that we can adjust to meet the needs of our students. So these are the things that we can tweak. We don't have to expect the same product from all the students. Like giving students options for how they demonstrate their learning is a good way to ignite their curiosity. I think of choice boards. Like give them choice with the same learning standards. Task design, again, a solid curriculum is supposed to do all of this for us, but it's one company is trying to fit the needs of your needs and your teaching style. So, but there are universal strategies that we can learn to apply across similar tasks. And that's why PD cannot be, you know, it's almost laughable, if I may say. Well, it's almost laughable what we get. And you know, we deserve better, and it has to be a long-term planning. That's a long-term planning. All right. What about teaching beyond the bells, right? So that your students are not doing math just in your math class, but they're doing math everywhere beyond your classroom walls. So I have a few suggestions that students can do and what teachers can do. So this is taking it beyond the bell. Students can share with their family the math directly from what they learn from class. I always encourage it, you know, sharing is caring. So just bring it home to your family, post it on the fridge, right? And yeah. Or the family gets in on the fun from a math newsletter, right? Yes, the ones that you create because you don't have sleep anyway, and you don't have time like to. Anyway, I'm not kidding with you. I don't know, I was high on something because I don't know what I was smoking, but oh my gosh, I used to send home a 2-page newsletter, 2-page. Guess how often? This one says issue 1, right? And it starts with Dear Mesa family. I don't know if you can read it. Welcome to our first edition of Math Matters at Mesa. Each week, your student will bring home, each week, right? What was I thinking? Seriously. And so here's my proof. This is May 25th, issue 29. So anyway, I found these some years ago. I was young and ambitious. Anyway, I do have copies of all these PDFs. So I don't have the Word, but I do have PDFs. And please just email me and I'd be happy to share these with you. Right, so I have these that I send home weekly. Right. So community math is when I post a math problem on the dedicated wall in the classroom. and or outside in the hallway. They can do this in between classes, during recess and lunch. Maybe have a friendly competition going, okay? So what kinds of problems are appropriate for community math? Here's one that I actually built this in a Desmos platform, so I can share that with you if you remind me if you want the community math. So I built this in Desmos and using Polypad, so you can drag the numbers in. But otherwise, if you do this on a board, put the numbers on sticky notes, right? And just lives in the corner of their whiteboard. And so kids can just whenever to figure out, this is such a great problem. So each pair of neighboring integers add up to a perfect square. I had so much fun. So my dining table had all these things, and you don't actually have to draw the squares. I mean, just the sticky notes, just have to form a loop, right? They're all connected. Yeah. Right, so yeah, I can share those slides with you. For teachers, what can you do to spread the joy of math beyond the classroom? Well, you can do a newsletter too. And I have these. So this was just a few years ago, and it helps to stay with, you have some categories. I got smarter. Notice I got smarter. It's just one page sent electronically. And I always have the same features to make it easier for me to put the next one together. Right. So something like this. This was back in September, years ago. All right, but these are in, yeah, these should be in Word, so you can change them. So I have these two. See, here's my name. All right, and then another thing you can do is to have your camera everywhere, because math is all around us. We tell kids this, so let's make sure we do the same, right? Take pictures of all these things. My kids have seen the inside and outside my home. Yeah, they've seen my bills, they've seen, what I buy at groceries, just because there's just readily available math. I did this, I'm watching the time, I'm conscious, yeah. So I went to Tasty in Little Saigon in Santa Ana. And next thing I know, I created a lesson out of it. It was great percentages. Oh my God, it was so good. I'm praising my own work. Well, because the kids, I can create whatever, but if the engagement's not there, but there was tons of engagement on this one. So I wrote this one up on my blog. Yeah, so you love the kids diving in. Woo-hoo. So here's my, talk about the tape measure. I go out and there it is. This is a giant, the cupcake mix, right? They would not give it to me, so I had to stand there and measure it and then form it with butcher paper as much as best I can do, and we made estimates. All right, and then ask the class to solve your problems, like planning a trip or budgeting. Put them to work, for crying out loud. You work so hard already, make your kids work. And this is modeling. This is modeling at its best, right? And yeah, I was deciding on which gym to go to, 24-hour fitness. Kids went to work. And yeah. All right. Whew. Right. And in conclusion, the title of this session can be translated to mean this. From day 1 through day 180, students leave your class with unanswered questions because there's so many. It's kind of silly of us to solve things in a class period. Right, and hopefully you're igniting that passion to continue to explore, to be curious, all the good things that we want citizens to have. Right? Oh, it's weird that I cannot see you, but I hope it was worthy of your hour. I appreciate you. I love you. I always love my teachers, and yay! So please reach out. I don't sleep. I'm always around. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, people. Thank you for giving up your hour with me. I hope it was worth it. Yay. Thank you. Thank you.
I think what you're seeing is the Zoom version of a standing ovation.
Mm.
And I want to thank you, Fawn.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Cole, do you have any?
Springbrook too. Kyle, thank you. Lisa, thank you. Danielle, John, Andrea, Megan, thank you. Thank you.
And it looks like fun. We not only had people on here after a school day, but we had some people on here on their spring break to listen to you this
I
afternoon.
saw
Look
that.
at that. So just a
Goodness,
wonderful
hope
tribute
that
to them. So
I hope you had a good drink, whatever it is you're drinking, whether it's iced tea or just put your feet up. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so I'll just say kind of in closing real quick, we will be sending out a link for our next month, third Thursday. We'll be back here the third Thursday of April at 4 o'clock.
Who's
So
your next
be
person? Who's
uh,
present?
our next person is Dan Meyer will be coming to us in April.
Dan Meyer, who's that?
Yeah, I've heard of
I
it.
don't know. I'll have to go looking for his photos, Fawn, and see if I can recall him a little bit. But yeah, no, we have Dan Meyer joining us in April, so we're super excited about that. And he'll have a tough act to beat. Well, I'll tell you that. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And so here is again, if you want to share this with your friends because you had so much fun today, please do. And we'll hope to see you then. In addition, Duane, can you go ahead and click the next one for us?
I knew you were going to do that.
Because if you didn't get enough of Duane and I today, you can catch us on Math on the Rocks podcast, where we're talking about all the things, rocky topics of mathematics going up and down the state and in our Central Valley. So we hope to see you in there as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And we look to see you next month.
All right, thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Cole.
you.
Thank you, Duane. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Yay.